My name's Nate, and this is how you can create Brick Breaker in under an hour. But first, if you're creating games regularly, you should go check out my new sound effects package on the Unity Asset Store. There will be a link in the description below. First, you should start by making some sprites. For 2D, Photoshop has everything you'll need. You probably need a thin, long rectangle for the player's paddle, a circle for the ball, a square for a brick, and a polygon for some of the effects. After you export the sprites, it's time to build the audio effects in something like FL Studio. You'd probably need a sound effect for the brick and ball collision, along with a sound effect for the player and ball collision. I like the SimSynth steel drum preset, and after changing a few settings, you can get a really nice crisp bell sound. For the second effect, maybe use the SimSynth blank preset and turn it into a retro synth-like sound. Open a new 2D Unity project and import the sprites and audio effects. Drag in the player, brick, and ball sprite into a new scene. Then organize the files with some basic game dev organization file structure. Create the scripts for the player, the ball, the brick, and for an effect. Resize the game object sprites and add the components you'll need. On the player, you'll likely need a box collider 2D and a rigid body 2D. Make sure the rigid body gravity scale is set to 0. For the ball, you'll probably need a rigid body 2D and a circle collider 2D, along with an audio source component. You should also make a physics material for the ball so that it will not slow down due to friction during the game. The brick just needs a box collider 2D, and each object needs, of course, its respective script. Then you'll want to spend some time creating an effect for when the ball collides with the brick. Create a material with the polygon sprite and apply it to the renderer of the particle effect. Make the effect burst and randomize the speed along with the size. Then make sure the effect fades away nicely at the end of its lifetime. Time to enter into developer mode, starting with the ball. Create variables for the effect, the audio source, and the audio clips, along with the rigid body and a bool that can track the spawn state of the ball. You should probably also put the speed into a float. Set the velocity of the ball's rigid body in the start function. Set up the collision handler to play the audio effect and play the visual effect after the ball has exited the collision. Add a simple function to the effect class that will make the effect delete itself after a specified time. This way, when we delete the brick, the management of the effect is handled independently. In the brick script, create variables for the sprite renderer and make an array of colors to change the brick's color as it decreases in health. Set the brick's color to the last color in the color array and set the health to the length of the color array. Create a collision handler on the brick so that it will delete itself if it no longer has any health remaining. Otherwise, decrease its health and change the color. Open the player script and create the movement logic for playing in both the editor and on Android. Return to Unity and set up the variables on each game object. Add a few more bricks to the scene and the borders to keep the ball in bounds. Create the tags for each object and apply them to their respected game objects. Then edit the ball's physics material to ignore friction, and add an if statement to the ball's logic that will make sure its velocity never becomes too horizontal. Then open the build settings and switch the build type to Android. Lock the screen rotation to portrait and build the game. Finally, you're ready to test it. So there you have it. That's how you create Brick Breaker in under an hour, or only a couple minutes if you follow along with the video. If you'd like to support the channel, go ahead and give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, or check out my Patreon account that's also linked in the description below. Thanks for watching.